It's safe to say, I think by this point at least, that there is nothing that could be said about Super Mario Bros. That probably hasn't already been said countless times before since its original 1985 release, regarding its place in history, its importance, and whatnot. But let's strip that all away. All the history, all the accolades, its effectiveness to give players a sampling of what this newfangled Nintendo thing was capable of and whatever else. Strip that all away. Put that all aside, and what are you left with? You're left with a game that even after 3+ decades of existence remains a fun, well-crafted video game that has held up exceptionally well. It's a game with tight responsive controls, a fair learning curve. It has its share of secrets, whether it be something as obvious as Welcome to Warp Zone, or something a little less unintentional like a Minus World, or something apparently less obvious like holding down A while pressing start on the title screen to continue where you last died. Apparently not a lot of people knew about this thing, even though back in the day everybody knew about this trick. But, I don't know, different times, not gonna hold it against you much. As Mario alone or with the second player as Luigi in 2-player alternating turns, your main purpose in life is to run across each of the game's sprawling worlds collecting coins and power-ups, avoiding pitfalls, stomping on enemies, and grabbing the flagpole to clear the stage before the time limit expires. You know, as longtime players would know, collecting magic mushrooms make Mario big and strong enough to break blocks of bricks. And collecting fire flowers enables him to shoot fireballs at his enemies. Sometimes you'll come across secret items like invincibility starmen or special mushrooms that grant you one extra chance, and sometimes you'll come across pipes that leads to shortcuts and wait, why am I telling you this stuff again? The majority of the game's 32 levels take place outside, but some stages take place in underground tunnels as well as some bodies of water, where you must swim past bloopers and Cheep Cheeps to reach the end line, since you can't jump on them to kill them. At the end of every world, you venture through a castle stage where you must deal with fire sticks and fireballs before eventually confronting Bowser, either by subduing him with fireballs or collapsing the bridge with the axe to have him meet a fiery end. Accomplishing this task greets you with Toad, the mushroom retainer who helpfully informs you that the princess is in another castle. Lather, rinse, repeat. Control is solid, you hold B to run and A to jump, with the strength of the jump determined by how hard you're pressing the button and by whatever momentum you've built over a nice jog. You don't have the high bounces you'd get in later games in the series, after stomping on Goombas, but what's here works for what the game has to offer. The game does a good job over the course of 5 worlds, slowly introducing new enemies and gimmicks for you to contend with, before putting your skills to the test in the final stretches of the game. Now, it's been 35 years. Super Mario Bros. Is a game that's been played constantly on and off. People know this game, so much so they're doing speedrunning sessions at live events and whatnots over the course of who knows how long. It's pretty amazing stuff. But what about the folks who've never touched this game in their lives? Well, in that regard, the best I could say is that the game has the right balance of difficulty. It starts off easy enough for you to get used to the controls and the gameplay, but slowly becomes more difficult as you progress through the end, and they introduce more stuff. Uncovering the hidden warp zones to skip worlds makes the game decidedly easier, but playing the game from beginning to end, you'll be surprised to find a bit of challenge here and there. Even then, the familiarity of the game doesn't take away from the overall enjoyment of the game. Well, it certainly hasn't for me at least. The graphics in Super Mario Bros. Was a stark contrast to what was seen on the Atari 2600, and even some of the consoles that came afterwards. Smooth scrolling screens, vibrant colors, and well-rounded graphics along with a simple but appealing typeface made Super Mario Bros. A visually appealing video game for its day, and was a template for what the NES was capable of pulling off in terms of visuals, almost reaching that level of graphical prowess that was reserved for the video arcades of its day. This is the kind of stuff that would eventually be turned into a t-shirt line for some reason, but it's still a fine-looking mid-80s title, even if it might not be the prettiest given what has come along later down the road in the NES life cycle. Upon pressing the start button and after a brief intermission, you're greeted with the classic, iconic Super Mario Bros. Theme song. A wonderfully catchy and upbeat piece of chip music that sounds crisp and clear and wonderful. The other themes present in this game, such as the underworld and the underwater themes, are also wonderful to listen to and are timeless classics in their own right. There aren't that many tracks, but the few tracks presented never get old and are still a joy to listen to even towards the end of the game. Sound effects are your simple fare, but they do have a bit of character to them, and there's a wide variety of sounds for many different situations. That's also classic stuff, but I don't know what else to say. Well, how about this for a closing thought? Super Mario Bros. Has its place in history, and it's a pretty important game as far as its role in Nintendo's early stranglehold on the video game industry, and basically an important building block towards an empire that still strives today for the most part. And the reason for that, quite simply, it's that it's a good game. Good pack-in game to showcase what the NES could do while also being fun to play. One wonders what the scene would have been like if they had packed in some other game besides Mario with the NES. Would Nintendo have been as successful had they stuck in some other game like Clu Clu Land or Ice Climber? I suppose we'll never really know. No, who am I kidding? Of course they fucking wouldn't. Nowadays, Super Mario Bros. Can be played on a variety of formats. Aside from the original incarnation, the game is currently available, as of this recording at least, on the Nintendo Switch Online NES service thing. It's been on various virtual console services on Nintendo Wii, Wii U, or 3DS. It's been part of the classic NES series of Game Boy Advance ports of NES titles. And there's even a version on the Game Boy Color, which also includes a truncated version for the Japanese Super Mario Bros. 2 game as a hidden feature. Of course, we can't neglect the upgraded version featured on the Super Mario All-Stars Super Nintendo compilation, as well as being one of some 20 plus games featured on the now discontinued NES Classic Edition mini console, and of course, it's been featured on many bootleg plug-and-play systems. All methods are fine and dandy, and really, either way you go, it's a classic side-scroller, it's a perfectly functional platformer, and most importantly, it's fun. And that's pretty much all I've got to say about that.